You already know what you'd do with more money. You've had the answer ready for years, and every single time your income has gone up, that answer has quietly rewritten itself. The goalposts moved, and you helped carry them. Where you draw the line between enough and more might be the most consequential financial decision you ever make. And both sides of this debate have sharp teeth. The case for locking your number early sounds almost too clean. Pick an amount, write it down, build toward it. Once you hit it, stop optimizing for income and start optimizing for time. People who've done this describe a specific moment, the morning they realized their next dollar earned would cost more in life than it returned in freedom. A software engineer in her early 40s pulls in $200,000 a year. Her expenses sit around $60,000. She did the math at 32, picked a portfolio target, automated her savings, and refused to upgrade her lifestyle no matter how many raises landed. By 41, she was done. Her number held because she decided it before her taste had a chance to inflate. That story feels airtight. But apply pressure and cracks show up fast. The lock number crowd assumes you can predict what your life will cost in 10 or 20 years. They assume your health stays stable, your family size stays fixed, your parents stay independent, your city stays affordable. A number chosen at 28 by a single person renting a studio carries zero relevance for the same person at 42 with 2 kids, a mortgage, and an aging mother who needs care. Life doesn't hold still while your spreadsheet catches up. The number was never really locked. It was frozen in a context that melted. Defenders push back hard on this. They say the number should account for uncertainty. Build in a margin, add a buffer for healthcare, assume some inflation. Fair enough. But notice what happens the moment you start padding the number. You're already doing the thing you swore you wouldn't, recalculating. The buffer gets a buffer. The margin gets a margin. And suddenly you're right back on the treadmill. Except now you're running with a spreadsheet that makes you feel responsible about it. So maybe the treadmill is the honest position. Maybe your definition of enough should rise with your income because your needs genuinely change as your life changes. A 25-year-old backpacker and a 45-year-old parent are solving different problems. Lifestyle inflation gets treated like a character flaw, but some of it reflects real growth. You're buying safety, not status. Better schools, a safer neighborhood, health insurance that actually covers something. These cost more because they're worth more. Calling that a hedonic treadmill flattens the distinction between a third car and a first mammogram. That argument deserves respect, and yet it hides something dangerous inside it. The problem is that your brain is genuinely terrible at distinguishing between needs that grew and ones that dressed up as needs. Behavioral economists have mapped this with uncomfortable precision. When income rises, spending on visible goods, cars, clothes, dining, housing square footage rises almost in lockstep. Spending on invisible goods, savings rate, insurance quality, preventive healthcare barely moves. If the treadmill were just about meeting real needs, you'd expect the invisible goods to climb first. They don't. The visible ones do. Every time. Your brain upgrades the showroom before it upgrades the foundation. There's a mechanical reason for this. Humans evaluate their financial position relative to a reference group, and that reference group shifts upward every time income does. You get a raise, you move to a nicer building, and now your neighbors drive better cars. Your old car worked fine last month. Same engine, same mileage, same reliability. But parked next to a row of newer models, it starts to feel like a statement you didn't mean to make. The car didn't change. Your comparison set did, and your brain registers the gap as a deficit. Something to fix, something to spend on. The treadmill isn't powered by greed, it's powered by context. So the lock your number camp has a point about the mechanism. Left unchecked, your sense of enough will always outrun your income by exactly the margin needed to keep you anxious. The hedonic adaptation research bears this out. Lottery winners return to baseline happiness within months. People who double their salary report feeling wealthier for about a year before the new normal absorbs it. The ceiling becomes the floor, reliably, measurably, across every income bracket studied. But the lock your number camp has its own blind spot, and it's a big one. They romanticize a fixed identity. The person who locks a number at 30 is betting that the 30-year-old version of themselves knew what the 40-year-old version would value. That's a staggering assumption. People change in what they care about, what they fear, what they want their Tuesday mornings to look like. A freedom number chosen before you had children, before you lost a parent, before you discovered what your body feels like at 50. That number belongs to someone who no longer exists. Locking it isn't discipline. It might be denial. The deepest tension here sits between two legitimate values. On one side, the freedom that comes from deciding what's enough and refusing to renegotiate. On the other, the wisdom to recognize that life demands renegotiation and rigidity in the face of genuine change is its own kind of trap. One side fears the treadmill, the other fears the cage. And both fears are earned. Consider the person who locked their number, hit it, quit their career, and then watched their marriage end because their partner's number was different, and they'd never discussed it. Consider the person who kept chasing a higher number for 30 years, retired at 67 with more than they could spend in 3 lifetimes, and realized they'd traded their healthiest decades for a cushion they'd never use. Both stories are common. Both involve someone who was wrong about what enough meant. They just made opposite errors. The financial independence community leans heavily toward the locked number. They have forums, calculators, acronyms, the 4% rule, the 25 times multiplier, coast fire, lean fire, fat fire. The architecture is impressive, but it shares a quiet assumption with every other system that promises control over an uncertain future. It assumes the variables hold still. Interest rates, healthcare costs, inflation, tax policy, your own health. None of these respect your spreadsheet. The people who hit their number and stayed free often had something the calculator didn't account for. Luck, good health, a stable marriage, no catastrophic surprises. The system worked because the universe cooperated. That cooperation wasn't guaranteed. It was grace. On the other side, the people who let their number float aren't all slaves to lifestyle creep. Some of them are making the sophisticated bet that their earning power will continue to grow, that their skills compound, that staying in the game longer produces returns the early exit crowd never captures. A surgeon who retires at 45 walks away from decades of expertise that took a decade to build. An entrepreneur who stops at her first successful exit misses the one that would have been transformative. The treadmill, in this framing, is just momentum. And momentum is valuable if you're moving towards something that matters. The real question cuts deeper than budgets and withdrawal rates. It asks what money is actually for. If money buys freedom, then the locked number is a liberation date. Every dollar past it is wasted effort. If money buys capability, then the locked number is a premature ceiling. Every dollar past it expands what you can do in the world. Both frames are internally consistent. Both produce radically different lives. And you can't hold both at the same time. Your brain will recalculate the number. That much is certain. The research is too consistent to argue with. Hedonic adaptation is a feature of human cognition, present across cultures and income levels. The question is whether you treat that recalculation as a bug to be overridden or a signal to be interpreted. The locked number people say override it. The floating number people say listen to it. One group risks rigidity. The other risks infinity. There's a version of this where both sides are half right, and the answer lives in the ugly middle. You lock a number, but you revisit it every 5 years with brutal honesty, separating genuine life changes from lifestyle creep, real needs from upgraded wants. You give yourself permission to adjust the target while refusing to adjust it reflexively. That sounds reasonable. It also sounds like the kind of compromise that collapses the moment your income jumps 40% and your neighbor renovates their kitchen. The treadmill doesn't care about your intentions, it adjusts speed automatically. So where do you stand? Is financial freedom a number you choose once and defend against your own psychology? Or is it a moving target that reflects the real, changing shape of your life, even if that means you never quite reach it? How do you know the difference between a need that grew and a want that learned to speak the language of necessity? And if you're honest, truly painfully honest, do you even know your number right now? Drop it in the comments, the number, and whether you trust yourself to keep it.